beautiful day.
It is
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. Now, when you say perfect to a bass, what would a bass day be?
Any day's a good day for a bass. It seems like that
As long as it doesn't have a hook in its mouth?
they're always looking for something good to eat.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Maybe after the show we'll go out and get something. Here we are today in my backyard with Dick Smith, and you're part of the New Hampshire Bass Federation.
Yes, I am. We actually have two bass fishing organizations in New Hampshire, and I'm the one that's called TBF, the Bass Federation.
Uh-huh.
I'm the conservation director. I've been that for a lot of years. So that kind of implies that we're into conservation, which we are. We're very much interested in clean water, not only for humans, but for all the aquatic life that's in here. And we're very much interested in the habitat for aquatic life. Some people call them weeds. We call it aquatic vegetation.
Yeah.
So we're interested in that. We're very much focused on kids, on the youth, introducing them to fishing because it's fun and because those kids are the future conservationists. And we want to promote the sport of fishing so people can enjoy it throughout their lives.
Right. So, now, when did you start as a fisherman?
When I was a kid, of course. You know, Dad would take me fishing, and so there's something about the mystery of fishing, and when you get a fish on, you don't know what it is. It's like a treasure.
It is.
And you anticipate, when you can get up close to the boat, see what it is.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, what the appeal is. Treasure hunt.
You know, it's funny because I never thought of it as a treasure hunt, but it really is because, you know, like even when you see the fish out here jumping, you wonder, okay, was it rolling? Was there another fish going after it? Is it going for flies? You know,
how big is it?
Yeah, there's so many questions, gosh. And it gets to swim around in these beautiful locations here.
Yeah, it is. And for families, like we have a large number of single parent families. Usually mom and the kids. And fishing is a great recreational enjoyment. You can go to Walmart and you can buy a Zebco 202 for like 10 bucks, a couple bobbers and hooks, dig up some earthworms, come out here, you can have fun.
Yeah, and it's not that expensive.
Not expensive.
Yeah.
And when the kids are out here, they're looking in the water and they can see the little aquatic life. Maybe they see a crayfish, they see a little minnow. So it gets kids more interested in biology, what's happening in nature. It gets them close to it.
Right, that connection is wonderful.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, just talking it brings back memories of me and my dad and my brothers, because we spent many a summer day out fishing. And it sounds like a lot of fun, and it is for the kids, but for my dad, the headaches of all those lines in the trees and getting them caught and everything, and oh my gosh. But you know what? Look at the memories that we get.
Well, that's it. It's memories.
Yeah.
And see, you never forgot those experiences, and neither did your dad.
Right.
And I'll give you an example of what we do for youth. Every year, I organize a bunch of bass fishermen, and we haul our bass boats up to Merry Meeting Lake. That's up there by Winnipesaukee. There's a camp up there for 125 children who are living with diabetes. And we get about 20 boats up there, and we take them all fishing. They all catch fish, have a great time. So what are we doing? We're making memories that they'll never forget that. So this year will be my 18th year of doing that. So we've introduced about 3,000 children. We've hooked them on fishing.
And you certainly have, yeah. You know, and what a great thing. Again, it's not that expensive.
No.
But this is something that anybody, if you have diabetes, if you have a lot of other challenges in your life, that you can just go out and you can fish from shore, you can fish from a dock, if you got a boat, you know, you can go out. But look at all the places. You park on the side of the road in a safe place where you can fish, and you just put your line in. And to watch that bobber.
I know.
Oh God. I have to say, I used to play around with it and just fake that I had a fish on. But you know, when you really have a fish on and you watch that bobber go under, it looks like Jaws.
I know.
Do, 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 do. So I mean,
great
it's
fun.
just, it's so exciting as a child. You know, and for people that have never fished before, never gotten their hands in the dirt and pulled out the worm or the night crawler that's all squirming around, and oh,
It's
God.
great fun, and for moms and kids, a good resource for you is go to Google and just type in Fish and Game, comma, NH for New Hampshire, and I'll take you to the New Hampshire Fish and Game website. And they got a program there, it's called Let's Go Fishing. And they have volunteers that do classes. They'll put together a school program. Some of you kids who are interested, get a bunch of you together and form a fishing club. And some of us adults would be happy to come in and show you how to tie the best knots, how to catch fish, and then we can make a field trip. So it's all readily available. All you have to do is ask for it, and it's yours.
That's great. Now, you know, I just never knew that there were so many organizations out there that are connected with you. So what are some of the other organizations that the Bass Federation helps?
We have a seat on the New Hampshire Public Water Access Board. As a matter of fact, I hold that seat, so I represent fishing. So here in New Hampshire, we have between 900 and 1,000 lakes and ponds like this.
Yeah, and this is Perkins Pond that we're looking at right now.
So these natural resources are held in public trust. This means they belong to everybody equally, and the public should have access to their resource. So that's what I try my best to make happen, is get access for people, whether it's from shore or whether it's from a boat. Then we're also involved in the New Hampshire Wildlife Federation. And in addition to that, we get very involved with legislative matters that might affect boating and or fishing. So we have a voice there as well. I also serve on the New Hampshire Lakes Management Advisory Committee.
And what do they do?
Everything having to do with lakes, the quality of the water especially, is very high. We appreciate all the wildlife. Like when it comes to fishing and loons, just a word of caution for the youngsters, that when you are fishing with the small stuff, like the bobber and the little hook and the little split shot, make sure that split shot's made out of tin.
Right.
Don't use lead,
Right.
because a loon might mistake that for grit. The bigger stuff, it doesn't matter, because they're not going to mistake that for their grit. So, and just be a conservationist. It's fine to harvest some fish, learn how to clean them, provide a meal for your family. That's all good, no problem whatsoever.
Yeah.
But you don't want to over-harvest, and you don't want to keep fish that you don't intend on taking care of and eating.
I completely feel the same way. Because, you know, catching a fish, it's like a lot of things in life. Catching a fish is pretty easy in most cases. Then what do you do with it? You know, be responsible. Right. It's the responsibility thing. Because, you know, there's a lot of catch and release, but also knowing how to catch and release safely, because you don't want to catch and release and then have the fish die.
Right.
You know, if you can help it. So,
right.
you know, there's learning how to do that. Now, one of the other things that came to mind while you were talking is, what about the grass or whatever that they say, the humifoil, or what is it?
Milfoil.
Milfoil.
Right.
What about, do you guys pay attention to that at all? Because I've seen people that, you know, sit beside the lakes and stuff, and they ask you if you have milfoil on your boat. I don't know all that much about that kind of stuff.
Okay. It's called a Lake Coast Program. It's administered by the New Hampshire Lakes Association. Used to be administered by the Department of Environmental Services. And so I think they must have about 70 maybe of these lake coasts, and they're usually at certain select lakes just on weekends. But the idea is that if there isn't milfoil in a body of water, you want to keep it out.
Right.
Well, one of the ways milfoil can get in is if a boat and a trailer has milfoil on it, launches it here in the water, those little filaments get out there and they can start milfoil. It's a controversial topic.
Right.
Some of the best bass fishing is where there's a lot of milfoil. As far as the fish are concerned, they love the stuff.
Right.
The fry loves it because it's a great place for them to hide so they don't get eaten by all the panfish.
Right.
But lakeshore property owners see it differently. A lot of them see it as icky weeds and they want to get rid of it. The truth of it is about milfoil is that once it's established, it's got the right nutrients in the water, it's got the right bottom sediment, it's going to thrive. Once it's established, you can't eradicate it. And what bothers us is the use of chemicals in the water like 2,4-D, because nobody knows for sure how that might affect the endocrine system of all this different aquatic life. Our view is we just as soon not use any chemicals at all. If you can identify milfoil early, you can hand pull it, and that's fine. But
yeah, and
like,
I feel the same way. You know, the chemicals, they may say that they're safe,
but
how do you know? And then years down the road, we find out that, oh my gosh, we shouldn't have been using these things.
Like flutamide, for example. We thought that was okay at one point. And what happened with that? So we don't know. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things out there I mean, you'll hear me in a lot of my shows, you know, talking about how much I just think that people need to be responsible again for all the things that they put in the water. So if we can try to eradicate it before it gets into the water or prevent it, then that's the safest thing to do, really.
It's kind of like human health. Prevention is the key to this whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, get out and get exercise. I mean, fishing is a great exercise. It's not going to be cardiovascular unless you're bringing in the big ones all the time. But, you know, it's such a great thing to get outside. You get out in a boat, you get a little bit of sun, use your sunscreen. But you get a little bit of sun, you have stories to tell.
Right.
You know, my son is out all the time, and I'm sure it's in his blood because he gets it from both sides. But, you know, he just loves being out there. And on his Facebook page, he's got pictures galore of holding up the big fish, you know, and I think he totally respects the environment, but he just loves going out there. And I think it's that connection, you know, knowing that he can go out and it's peaceful and quiet, it's connecting with nature, and he's doing something he really enjoys.
I think a big draw, Jodi, is that when you do catch a fish, regardless of size, regardless of species, to whether you're an adult or you're a child, that represents being successful. My view is there's so many ways for kids to lose nowadays. Fishing is a way for them to win. And it doesn't matter what your gender is or what your age is. And I think that's a big hook.
Yeah.
Now, those of us in the organized bass fishing community, we do have tournaments. And it gets your juices going. Everybody throws some money in there for an entry fee and then we fish for it, right? And you see these big, beautiful metal flake bass boats with the big engines on them and so forth. And it's a game, and it's fun. You know, this is your equipment.
Big boy time.
These are big toys, right? But this is the passion of people that are really into that.
Well, you know what you are? You're just a bunch of big little kids.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
you're just going out and throwing the line. And how many times have you ever seen somebody that caught a fish and didn't smile?
That's right.
I mean, do you ever see a frown on somebody's face unless they lose it?
That's right.
But yeah.
So I think we've pretty well covered the key things. But like kids in school, they can start a fishing club in school. They can form what we call a junior Bassmaster Club. And some of us adults then will make arrangements for them to have their own little mini tournaments and so forth, so they get a taste of what this is like.
Yeah.
And a lot of the kids have seen the bass tournaments on television. Well, they get a chance to get a taste.
Okeechobee.
They get a taste of that.
Yeah. Well, I used to watch a lot of those shows, not because I was watching, but somebody else that I knew loved those shows. But yeah, I mean, it's a taste. And you're right. You know, you can be successful just going out and throwing out a line.
Yeah. And it gets back to that again, Jodi, is that it's easy to be successful with fishing, but it's not always easy to be successful in other things in life.
But this can release a little bit of your tension sometimes. You know, you can just, you go out, everything's nice and quiet, you don't have a cell phone, you don't have a television, you know, nobody blah, blah, blah.
It's healthy because if you're out in the sun, you're making vitamin D.
Yep.
which is a fabulous nutrient, by the way, and it's free.
Yep, yep, yeah. And I mean, look at the views, the places that you go for fishing. You know, there's a lot of places that might be catch and release, not so much for bass, I don't think, but you know, there's so many places that you can go, these backwoods where there's ponds that nobody can get to unless you hike in. You know?
And right here in the Monadnock region, we have lots of lakes and ponds. They've all got panfish, they all got bass in them, some of them have got trout in them. So whether it's by a little canoe or a kayak or just from shore or any kind of a boat, you know, your chances of catching fish are good. Like right here, you start up there by Silver Lake, say for example, by Harrisville, and you got Harrisville Pond. You got Nubanuzit, you got Spoonwood, and then that comes into Scatutakee, and on down to the Kentucky River, and Kentucky River's great fishery. Just south of Jaffrey, there's a great place for crappies and bass. It's called Mountain Stream.
And what is a crappie?
A crappie is a panfish.
And what is a panfish?
It's about pan size. It's about this long.
Oh, okay, okay, all right.
Fits in a pan. So panfish are like bluegills, pumpkin seeds, crappies, perch. The little perch, we consider them.
Now, do you eat all those?
You can. They're all good eating.
Don't they have a lot of bones in them?
Well, there's a way to fillet them or there's no bones at all. So if you and I
we should do a show on that because, well, you know, the thing is, there's so many fish, pickerel and I mean, there's things that I would never ever think of eating because I don't know how to clean them. I don't know how to fillet them.
This is what we would teach the kids in a Let's Go Fishing class, like in school.
Can I go?
Or we can do a program. I'll show you how to fillet fish. I don't care what size. And as far as pickerel, I got a way to clean those. You end up with no bones at all.
Wow. Wow, that's great.
So you just dig in and eat.
Yeah, because like you mentioned earlier, you know, when you catch a fish, you want to eat it. You know, you don't want to just take it home and let it stink up the yard. You want to, and if I'm going to catch something, I want to bring it home and I want to use it, and I don't want to have an abundance that sits in my freezer forever and. You know,
and then when you do finish cleaning the fish, of course you got the scales and the head and the fins and all that, and you put that on newspaper, roll that up, take it out in the garden and bury it. That's the greatest fertilizer you could ask for.
Yeah, yeah.
So
nice
you
compost.
use the whole fish.
Right, right. And it's, so again, it's green. It's good for you. Why not? Yeah. So what are some of your favorite places to fish around here? And you don't have to give me all your secrets.
Oh, well, I like the Connecticut River. That's not that far away.
And do they have walleye in there?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
It's one of the very few places you can catch walleye in New Hampshire. So in the spring especially, like down below the dam at Bellows Falls, that's really a good place. Just before the Cold River comes in, that's a good place to fish for walleye because they're looking to move up in there and spawn. The river has great smallmouth fishing. Southern part of the pools, it's largemouth fishing, variety of stuff you can catch in there, and so it's a smorgasbord. Good place if you have a boat to put in is at Hinsdale. It's a Norm's Marina. Plenty of parking, picnic tables. You know, bring the whole family and have some fun.
Yeah.
So, and as far as trout fishing is concerned, like where I live in Hancock, there is a trout pond close by called Willard Pond. There's no homes on it at all.
What a beautiful place.
You've been there. Okay.
We actually did a show on Willard Pond a few months back. Yeah.
So it's fly fishing only, and there's some nice rainbow trout in there.
Yeah, and clear.
Big smallmouth in there too. But
big smallmouth?
But it's fly fishing only.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's another thing is, you know, the fly fishing. I once took a class, something for the women through the Fish and Game Department, getting the women outdoors or something. I can't remember what it's called.
Becoming an outdoor woman.
Right, I took that. I took that, and I actually took it in Vermont. I was living in Vermont at the time, and I took fly fishing, and they were showing us how to do the fly fishing. I never pursued it, but to me, fly fishing is such an art. Do you fly fish at all?
I do.
I just think that is just amazing because it's like playing a game. Then you get the treasure because you're playing a game with that fish and trying to get that fly in there just
It's
in
a
the right
different,
spot.
it's a different rhythm than casting
Yeah.
with the like bass fishing gear, and a lot of people try and power cast, and it
Right.
doesn't work well.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, most of it, it's kind of like a stiff wrist. You come up here and you kind of pause and you let that line straighten out. Actually, you're throwing the line, not the lure. So
Right.
it's a little bit different
Yeah.
cadence.
Yeah, yeah. I have a couple of friends that love to fly fish. Again, I haven't gotten there, but
Yeah.
it's, you know, gosh, there's something for everybody here.
Another great little trip that's in the Monadnock region, you can put in a Nubanuzit, and with your canoe or canoes, take your whole family, pack a picnic lunch. You can paddle across Nubanuzit on your way over to Spoonwood. If you look up to your right, you'll see a tree, and there's an eagle's nest up there, so you got something interesting to look at.
Beautiful.
By the way, in the last 10 years, the eagle population has doubled.
Great.
So, but then after the eagle's nest, you keep on going. There's a short portage, and you go up to Spoonwood. There's no homes on it. It's like wilderness.
Yep.
So, and there's some primitive campsites there where you can camp if you'd like to. That's organized through the Harris Center in Hancock.
Do you have to let them know that you're going to be there?
Yes, you do. You have to kind of reserve that.
Yeah.
But the Harris Center is a great place for kids to go
Yeah.
to learn all about nature, short little hikes and so forth. They learn about owls and about the vernal pools, and it fits in nicely with school because it's a real life biology lesson.
Yeah.
Only instead of being stuck in a classroom, you're actually out there.
Right. And isn't that the best?
Taking water samples and look at the
Yeah.
little water skippers and the other
Yeah.
live things that are down
Yeah,
there.
yeah. You know, I think I look at things slightly differently than some people do, because when I look, I try to look up and I try to see things more than people usually do. Like when you're walking, you know, you just walk. But like also in the water here, you know, I like to look and see, like, what do I see? I see some water bugs here.
Yep.
And then, you know, like at the right time of the year, you see the bass beds. And you were telling me a story earlier about the bass in the bass beds. Like, so it's not the women that make the beds. It's
No,
the male fish.
It's the male that does the nest guarding. It's usually the bass will spawn between May 15 and June 15. And during that period of time, if you do go fishing, you catch a bass, you have to release it immediately.
That's what I was going to ask you,
Okay.
because it's really important. You don't know if it's a male or female, right? So.
Right. So the male then starts preparing the bed by fanning out the bottom till he gets down to the lighter sand and gravel. And it's about this big around.
It looks like a crater, kind of.
Yeah, and it's light colored, so they're easy to spot. So he prepares all this. Then when your water temperature gets up around 62, and especially if there's a full moon, now your big females will start moving in. And if that male in that nest looks like it's pretty good setup, they'll come in and they'll drop some eggs. They'll drop eggs 2 to 3 different nests. Total, they'll drop between 5,000 and 10,000 eggs. And then she leaves. That's the male who's left to guard the nest. And of course, the little bluegills, they're trying to dart in to try and get some of those bass eggs, because they need the protein, because they're going to spawn next.
Right.
See, so Mother Nature's got this all figured out.
Yeah. So how many eggs usually make it out of all those?
A fraction of 1%, because the body of water can only support so many pounds of game fish per acre, and it's called carrying capacity. And that's based upon how much habitat, how much aquatic vegetation do we have. The more aquatic vegetation, the more game fish, the more life it will support. So then the nest is always built so that the sunlight can get to it. But they'll also build that nest close to where there's some structure, like a log or a rock. But the eggs need the sunlight and the warmth to hatch. So then after the fry hatch, the male still sticks around and kind of guards them
What a
and so
nice
forth.
guy!
Yeah, this guy works hard. He doesn't eat much because he's stuck on the nest.
Now he knows what it's like. No.
But that's why now it's important. Now you got that cover nearby aquatic vegetation, because those little fry can get in there and they're protected from all the predators. So they get a chance to grow, so they can kind of get off on their own. So that's the cycle.
Yeah. Mother Nature, isn't it a wonderful thing?
In the full moon, there's intelligence, there's wisdom behind that, because it goes back to the tides. When you have a full moon, the water's the highest. So the bass are all fish. They can get back in their shallower, lay their eggs, and by the time they leave, it's no longer full moon. The water drops. The predators can't get back there to get the eggs. Isn't that smart? Isn't that clever?
It is. It is. I just, it's amazing to see what has been formed, all of the organization that someone above has given us. So we only have a couple more minutes.
Yep.
Dick, what would we want to tell everybody about bass fishing?
Well, it's a lot of fun. That's it, fun, F-U-N. That's what it's really all about. And for moms out there with kids, and dads as well,
too, yeah.
But especially moms who, are single family, it's a great book out there, and it's called Last Child in the Woods.
Ah, beautiful book. I love it.
And there's some really good, solid research that shows that kids that get in the outdoors, get in nature, whether it's fishing or just turning over rocks in a stream, that those kids do better in school, they're more creative. And I'll tell you, if you're a mom or a dad and you got a couple of kids and they got their fishing poles and they're going off go fishing, you don't have to worry about them, okay? They're not doing drugs, they're fishing.
That's right, that's right. And you hit it right there. I'm so glad you mentioned that book, because, that is it. Kids need to start as youngsters, and then they'll mature into responsible adults.
Yeah, that's it.
So great. Dick,
right.
I'm really happy that you were here. I'm so glad that you shared all of this with us today.
You're welcome.
So today we've been in my backyard with Dick Smith. If you are interested in contacting him about bass fishing or any other kinds of things, we'll run some websites and things in the trailer. And if you are interested in contacting us at In My Backyard, it's inmybackyardch8@gmail.com, and we will get back to you with any questions that you might have, or if you want to be one of our guests, just let us know. So we're open, and this is all about things in the Monadnock region: nature, agriculture, gardening. I'm a beekeeper, so bees, fish, whatever.
Let's go fishing.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you in my backyard.